We are back live with another episode of the Modern Lending Podcast. I'm your host, Alec Hansen, but you know that because you're hanging out on social and that's what you clicked, and obviously it's me. Whew, we're on the road to 100 million this year, season 4 of the podcast. Thank you for hanging out today. We are bringing on somebody who I've had the privilege to get to know really well over the last year and a half. This guy absolutely makes an amazing impact. His name is Patton Gade. You're going to hear it. You're going to see it on the boards. But let me just give you a couple of his numbers, and we'll bring him on. 2021, 425 units for about 220 million. 2022, year to date, we're at 220 units, 110 million year to date, 85% purchase. Who says there's a housing crisis? Who says there's a down market right now? Clearly, there are people in this industry making huge headway. Let's kick it off and bring Patton Gade on and hear his story and what you can learn on how you can be a $100 million producer yourself. All right, Patton, here we go, buddy. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Alec. Thanks for having me on.
As always, my friends, we are live. So if you're listening to this in the future, hit me up with a hashtag bypassed on the post. But if you're live with us right now, comment, hang out, let us know what's going on. And we have some. If you have questions for Patton too, we'll get into it. So, Patton, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Alec.
Let's go back in time for a minute, man. But before we actually, we'll start right from the origin story, dude. How did you find this crazy lending industry? No one ever finds it. I don't know. How did you stumble here? And then we'll get kind of your history after that.
No, it was completely kind of random. So I was in the Army for a long time, and I got out in 2002 and went into medical sales. A lot of Army officers go into medical sales after the Army. And that's where I found myself, and did that for 10, 12 years. Was very successful doing it, had a lot of fun. And in early 2014, one of my West Point classmates happened to be in Phoenix. And so on Facebook, I was like, hey, let's have dinner. And we had dinner, and he goes, dude, you need to come work for me. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. It's all, things are going great. I'm having a blast. And about 6 months later, my company started doing some unethical stuff.
Yeah.
And it was rubbing me the wrong way. And I was talking to my wife, and she goes, why don't you call that guy? I'm like, what guy? And she goes, that guy we had dinner with. I go, oh yeah. And so I called him. I go, man, what, you said come work for you. What do you do anyway? And he said, mortgages. And I'm like, well, you know what? Mortgages, that's numbers. I'm a math geek, and it's sales. And so he linked me up with the branch manager locally here. And it was a call center. And so I went in there and sat with him for a couple of hours. And I'm like, I'm in, let's do this. So October 2014 is when I kicked off my lending journey.
So let's go back. You said you served in the Army.
Yeah.
What was the story there? How'd you get involved? What made you do that?
Yeah, no. So I grew up in North Dakota, small town kid in the middle of nowhere. Super patriotic family. I mean, obviously, I'm named after a general. My other brother, or one of my brothers, his middle name is MacArthur.
Yes.
He also went to West Point. And then my other brother, who also served in the Army, his middle name was supposed to be Stonewall, for Stonewall Jackson. But my parents chickened out right at the end, and they gave him a normal name. So anyway, so I just patriotic family. My parents said, hey, you're going to serve the country somehow. The country's given us so much.
Yep.
And you ought to serve our country somehow. They didn't say you had to go in the military, but then I was looking at it, and we weren't well off, and so I was wondering how I was going to pay for college. And West Point was an obvious answer. I did great in school and all that stuff. So I applied and I got in, and that's where I went. So spent 4 years there. You want me to go into?
Yeah, I'd love to hear more. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and then from there I went into aviation. So I was a helicopter pilot, flew Blackhawks for 8.5 years. I was in Korea, Texas, all over the place, and then got out in 2002. It was a great way to spend your 20s, flying around, busting holes in the sky.
It's pretty badass, bro. Just gonna say it.
It was a lot of fun.
It's pretty amazing. Thank you for your service. Yeah, Alfredo dropped in there, dude. Thank you for your service. And so I could tell that your service, your history, your family, your upbringing has really put a mark into who you've decided to be in your mortgage career.
That's right. It's all, my whole career has been about service. Like when I got out of the Army and I went to Johnson & Johnson at the time. And one of the things that attracted me to Johnson & Johnson was they have what they call the Credo. And it's what the focus of their efforts are. It's not necessarily about making money. It's about taking care of a customer. It's about taking care of doctors and patients and all that stuff. And if you do that, you're going to earn a profit at the end. And so that was kind of my mindset. And then when I found lending, one of the very first loans, this is a great story. One of the very first loans I ever did was for a lady, single mom, lived in Las Vegas. And she was actually the executive assistant to a mortgage person who I think worked for Wells Fargo or something like that. But I got her through the lead system, and she needed to do a cash out. She was about ready to drown in debt. And she had, 50, 60,000 in credit card debt that had just piled up over the years. She still had good credit, but she had a ton of equity in her house. And I looked at it and I'm like, well, we can do a cash out for you and pay off most of this debt. And then the appraisal came back in. And instead of paying off most of the debt, I was able to pay off all of her debt. And I was also able to give her an extra 10 grand. So literally, this was December 23rd of 2014. I get to place a phone call and go, hey, guess what? Your appraisal came in 15, 20 grand high. I don't remember what the number was exactly. And we get to pay off all your debt. And do you want the extra 10 grand we can give you? And she goes, absolutely. I never told you, but I owe my mom 10 grand. And she was in tears. We literally closed right before Christmas. She got her money right after Christmas. And it was probably my first, I don't know, it was my 6th or 7th loan I ever did. And it just hit me in the heart. And I'm like, you know what? This is awesome. I changed her life. And she called me a couple times since then to do, she'd move in. I need a new house. I want to sell this one, all that stuff. So, but it's stuff like that where you can actually, by doing a great mortgage, you can set somebody's future up for them or help set their future up. You can put them on the right path, and it's amazing, and it's a lot of fun.
So, I feel like every great originator, Patton, has a story where they realize that what we do here goes deeper, because for the pain and the stuff we have to deal with, it's just not worth it unless you have a deeper connection to the humanity of the thing. That's right. So, but I know this, like every great producer, you did not start off as $100 million producer. What was your first couple of years like? Like, how did you get business? Like, what was happening?
So, like I said, I started in a call center, and the call center was a great place for me to start and for me to learn this business. I remember the first day that I'm on a phone and I'm learning how to use Encompass and, doing all that. And I go, what's DTI? What's that mean? I knew nothing about more, literally nothing. And, I'm out there just pounding the phone, 200, 300 phone calls a day. Just grinding every single day. And guess out of those 250, you talk to 4 people, maybe 8, but 4 of them cuss you out. 4 of them might talk to you. And those people that talk to you, like 2 of those might have like 450 credit scores. Yes. And they're just begging for a loan from somebody. And then 2 of them, you might pull a credit and you might maybe have a shot at one of them or something. And it's just a complete grind. Your ears bleeding at the end of the day.
Yes. God.
Just wiped out at the end of every day. So that was how I started.
So you got out of there.
I did that for a while, but I'll tell you here's what I learned when as a consumer direct guy is daily discipline.
Oh, good call.
And I think that carries over into what I do today, and how I do it today is you wake up every day, and it doesn't matter what happened yesterday or the day before or the week before. You got to get up and you got to face today, and you got to get after today, doing the right things and the right actions, whatever that happens to be for your business. If you're retail, you got to do the whole realtor thing. You got to be disciplined in doing it and do it every single day. And so that was one thing. The second thing was I really learned how to build rapport pretty quickly with people. So I'd get them on the phone, and you've only got what, 5 seconds?
Yeah, you got to go.
10 seconds to have them go, no, instead of hanging up on you, you've got to catch them somehow and keep them going. Right. And so that was one thing, building rapport quickly with people. And that's helped me regardless of who I am talking to in the mortgage business. Another thing would have been that the 1003, when you're taking a good 1003, it offers you countless opportunities to build connection with people. When how many kids do you have? Oh, I got 2 dependents. How old are they? Oh, they're 9 and 12. Well, guess what? I got a 9-year-old. Is yours a boy or a girl? You got an opportunity. What are they up into? My son is, he's into Legos and he's into and you can connect to those things. So the 1003,
I gotta pause you on that, sir. First of all, Brian put down there, 100% consistent deliberate actions are the key to success. And I agree with that 1,000%. Yeah. But what you just said was really profound. And I think everyone needs we need to take a pause on it because we get so transactional in lending.
Yeah.
We can't help it. We do loans all day long, right? You're in loans. And so you're sitting there on this, what you just said on taking the 1003 and using it as a point for human connection. You mentioned the dependence. That one stands out to me very obviously, right? Just like, dependence. How many dependents do you have? What a weird way to ask that question.
Yeah.
Like what a sterile, heartless way to say, to talk about someone's children.
Yeah.
But where are other points on the 1003 where would you try to make human connection?
I mean, just simply, address history. You have somebody that's moved from Las Vegas to Nashville and is now, or whatever. What took you to Nashville?
So good.
Or hey, I used to live in wherever. I live near Nashville. So if you're there, you have that conversation with them. Oh man, I love living in that area. And granted, I moved around a fair amount in the Army, so I've got a lot of little touch points in there. Yep. But yeah, just something as simple as that.
So when you got out of the call center, you took some of the key learnings with you. Did you go into a retail opportunity? Did you go out and hit the streets? What was it like?
Not really. So I left that bank, went to another bank, and it was pretty well it was kind of a call center thing. You buy a bunch of Zillow leads and whatnot. And then a little bit, probably 2 months before COVID, I mean, there are a couple of things that I think shifted my whole life. One is my wife prays for me constantly. And I can't underestimate how much impact that had, or can't overestimate, I should say, how much impact that had on me and my career. But I would say about 2 months before COVID hit, a friend of mine said, "Hey, you ought to join this Facebook group."
So who's the friend, and were you active on social media before this?
I wasn't super active. I mean, I had a Facebook account. I got 1,000 friends or something like that, but I don't post much. I still don't. And I need to follow. There's a guy named Alec Hansen that keeps saying I need to post stuff on Facebook and make videos and all that stuff. And so I got my mic, I got some gear going now. So we'll get to that, Alec. But I haven't posted a whole bunch, but I have been active in some groups. So a gentleman, his name's Todd Mefford, actually. He's a realtor. He's a classmate of mine and from West Point. He's a realtor in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas area. And we've done some business together. And he said, "Dude, you need to join this Facebook group." Yeah. And what it was a group of Facebook. It's a Facebook group full of 4,000 or 5,000 nothing but West Point graduates that are interested in some sort of real estate stuff. And there are realtors there. There's people that do syndications and multifamily stuff, and trailer parks and mall rehabs, and people that do fixes and flips, and all, I mean, you name it, anything kind of touching real estate, there are people there that do it. And so I just joined that group, and of course there are people there that need lending. And I do a lot of VA loans. I'm good at VA loans, and so my name started to get spread. And every time I talk to somebody, I mean, throughout my career, I've always asked for referrals and said, "Hey, do you have any friends? Do you remember me? Call me." Yeah. And people generally do. I've got a pretty unique name. I think that helps. Yeah, so I kind of went viral in this Facebook group, and all of a sudden, and then when rates dropped to like 2.75 and they were really good for like 10 days. I mean, I was working 20 hours a day, doing 10, 12 loans a day for 10 days straight. And that just kind of, and then it was mayhem for the last 2 years.
Well, this is what I love about your story, Patton. I remember when we connected on this, like one of the first times you and I talked, and I was like, break it down for me. Like, how's this going on? And I was getting really aggressive into social. I was seeing the potential, and I was like, this is going to be a thing. There's going to be a place of human connection. Yeah. People are going to figure this out. And then I talked to you, and you're like, yeah, I got into this, West Point Facebook group, and I'm just starting. Obviously we have connection from West Point. Then we have human connection. Yeah. We have history and experience. But there's no geographical restrictions. These are graduates from all over the country, and all of a sudden, your expertise, your empathy, and your competency hit this group, and your business went from what to what approximately?
So 2019, I did about 30 million, and 2020, I did 138 million.
Yeah. It's just a great example of like, and by the way, what I love about your story too is, even in the beginning in talking to you, you weren't like I'm a social media guru. I make videos. I put out kind of content. That's my thing. You were just like, yeah, I'm open to getting in this Facebook group. Yeah, I'm open to seeing what's going on. And it just exploded.
Yeah. And I think, I was super blessed in the fact that, this West Point group, if I went run into a West Point grad anywhere, a year and a half ago, my wife and I were in Hawaii, and I'm at the pool, and there's a guy over there, and he's got a West Point hat. And I go over and I say, hey, what year did you graduate? And
yes.
It's like 1983 or whatever it was. And I go, 83. And I pulled out my phone, and I list everybody in my phone, and I put in there under their company, I put what year they graduated. So I pulled up 1983, and I'm like, hey, do you know so-and-so? He goes, yeah, he was my roommate. And I'm like, holy cow. Okay, cool. And we start talking, so and we have instant trust and instant respect for each other. And so I'm blessed in the sense that when I go in that group, people trust me automatically just because of the ring I have on my hand, and the shared experiences. But what I would say is that everybody, it's hard. I can't just tell you, Alec, go join a West Point group. You're going to do great. What you wouldn't, right?
Nope.
But you have affinity. Everybody has an affinity group. Everybody has a group of people that they're part of. It could be, it could be your Jeep club or something like that.
Dude, it could be a Dungeons and Dragons like crew. It's so broad.
It could be somebody that like loves superheroes and has all their stuff in the background. Right? Superhero groups. Like if you just have to show up, right? You got to show up where people are, and people that have something in common with you is always beneficial.
Yep.
And you get those people together that like each other and like the same stuff, and then they know what you do, and all of a sudden you've got an opportunity.
So we got JD commenting, did I hear West Point? Go Navy. So already coming for you.
Yeah.
But
we'll
this is
JD in a minute.
You're such a great example of right place, right time, hard work and consistency pays off. And, leveraging these connection points and this West Point thing to take yourself all over the country, because, you're doing loans in every state almost right now, right? Pretty much.
Pretty close. Yeah. I'm licensed everywhere except Utah.
Yep. So as your business exploded and grew and the opportunity came at you, I want to talk about scaling and teams and kind of how you organized around that. Because I remember you told me you were working yourself to death.
Yeah.
Because you are a servant leader and you are in the trench. You're not going to leave people alone. So you were taking every app, you were putting it all on yourself, and just absolutely. Your wife must have been is a saint. She's a wonderful person because she had grace for days. Because you're like, honey, I'm fishing. I can't stop. How'd you scale your team? What'd you do? What kind of people did you hire?
Well, so I got a phone call from. I've got here's what my team looks like right now. I have two loan officers that work for me that are both West Point grads.
Yep.
And then I have two junior guys that just started working for me. One of them is a West Point grad, and the other one's a Naval Academy grad. I think JD was just popping his head in there. So I can be friends with JD and help coach him and stuff for except for 1 week a year.
Yes.
1 week a year, he gets nothing from me.
No, nothing.
Nothing. No, not even ads. I'll text him like memes and stuff. Anyway, so that's what my team looks like. I've got, basically 4 guys. And then the other thing that my team has kind of morphed into is, the VA loans are kind of something people just don't understand. Realtors don't understand them. A lot of loan officers don't understand them. And it's kind of my specialty. So I brought on 2 guys, and what their job is to take education out to realtors and consumers. And so those 2 guys, so we teach weekly classes, just online, and we get anywhere between 50 and 100 people, sometimes more, to come to those classes and just learn the basics of VA loans. And so we're trying to educate the masses and shift the way the marketplace looks at VA loans. But as far as my team, I don't have an assistant. The vast majority of the loans, hey, here's an email, click on apply now. As soon as you're done with that, shoot me a text message. I'll jump in your file. I'll look it over. I'll give you a pre-qual and we'll talk. And the one thing that we have, the advantage we have here, that I'm not working myself to death anymore, is our technology is great. The Mello system is awesome. Yeah. And, before I came here, I was literally taking a verbal 1003 and typing stuff in as I talked. And you can't do that kind of volume without killing yourself.
No,
if you don't have good tech.
So Pat, let me ask, let's go down a little tangent for a second.
Okay.
You made a comment that I had down to talk about, but let's just hit it now, which is, what percentage of your business is VA approximately?
Probably 70 to 75%. So
VA does have a stigma, incorrectly so, in the marketplace. I agree with you. I think that there's a bias. There's incorrect assumptions about how the product is. How do you go about attacking that or defeating that in the market, because you're serving so many vets and so successfully? How do you combat that narrative?
Well, part of it is I will get on the phone with the listing agent on nearly every single offer that goes in. If they'll talk to me, I'm on the phone with them. And what I tell them is this: is number one, here, I'll give you an analogy. The analogy I use with them is, if you're a golfer and you golf 1 time a year, you probably suck at it. And it's probably miserable for your entire foursome. And that foursome in a real estate that's your buyer, your seller, your buyer agent, your seller agent. And guess what? The foursome behind you is the house that seller is now going to go buy, but they can't because you're screwing up in front of them, right? Yep. And so if that's your golfing, you once a year, you're terrible at it. If you golf 3 times a week, you're ripping the ball down the fairway. And when it comes to VA loans, I'm the 3-time-a-week golfer. Now, I haven't touched a golf club in 10 years probably, but I'm ripping the ball down the fairway when it comes to VA loans. And so I know what my niche is. I know what I'm good at. And I focus on that. If you call me, or I had a realtor call me a week ago and say, hey, Patton, I got a guy for you. He's going to use a down payment assistance program. He's this. And I go, dude, I've never done a down payment assistance loan. I can get you somebody that can do one. And I'll refer him to somebody. Same thing. There's a guy buying a co-op in New York City. And I go, hey, Barrett, who's your guy that can do co-ops in New York City? Right. And send that over to Mr. Ketchian. Right. So, I'll pass those off, but I want to stay in my lane as much as possible and do the things that I'm good at and do those over and over again and get better and better at them. And so that phone call to that realtor and explaining to them that, and then explaining to them also, hey, here's how I'm connected. Here's how I know this borrower. I know I'm in Phoenix. I know your borrower's in, Virginia.
Yep.
Here's why this local lender thing is a bunch of crap, because I care about this guy.
Yeah.
I care about him because we're connected through my network of people. And we've had tremendous success in having folks get their offers accepted.
I love that, dude. The personal connection, the willingness to get on the phone, the analogy is totally on point. Stay in my lane. So Ashley, yeah, this has been many top originators this entire season for this podcast have said very similar things, like staying in your lane, knowing where your strengths are, knowing where to play, not getting distracted. It's just for everyone listening, that's a huge theme. So Patton, let me ask you this. What do you think makes you a top performer? What characteristics, if someone said, do I have the same capacity? What kind of characteristics do you think helps you become and stay a top performer?
Well, I mean, going back to one of the first things I said about when I was in the CD world and making those phone calls every day, you get kicked in the teeth sometimes in this business, but you got to wake up tomorrow and you got to do it again. And you've got to do the right thing every single, and it's really daily discipline. I would say that if you can be disciplined every day and not get, I've been in a call center, and you walk by and you see the guys that are not top performers, and what are they doing? They're on CNN. They're on ESPN.com. They're watching nonsense.
Yep.
They're not focused on doing what you're supposed to do, which is to originate loans and to expand your reach somehow. And that's something I've tried to coach all my guys, is that originators originate, right? Processors process. And so, that's another thing you asked about team earlier. I mean, if you don't have a great team of processing and operations people, you're gonna struggle. So you got to have a great relationship with them. Like, now, I don't have my own processors that I've taken with me from place to place, and I didn't bring a group. So I've got a great team right now that does a great job for me. And what I tell my originators is, like, I don't need you to. I mean, frankly, I haven't looked at a title report in years. I just don't.
Yeah.
That my operations, somebody's going to look at that. My underwriter's going to look at that. If there's a mechanics lien on there, they're going to go get that fixed. But I see a lot of originators that can't get over the hump, where they get bogged down in, I'm going to chase all these conditions for my process. And I've told my processors, and they're great at it. I'm like, you don't have to. If you need something from the borrower, don't ask me if you can ask them. Just go ask them. Don't wait for me. Just do it. And if you need help, if they haven't responded to you within 24 hours, you call me and tell me, and I'm going to text them. I'm going to say, dude, Emily asked you for 2 pay stubs. Send them in. Let's go. I'm trying to help you here. Let's get with it. And so I let my processors process, and I want my originators to originate. And once you can let go a little bit of some of the other stuff and not have to have your fingers dabbling in every little thing, your capacity to originate opens wide open.
Dude, I love that. What advice would you give an originator who wants to try to get to 100 million, Patton? What would you tell them they should do besides stay in their lane?
Well, you got to work your butt off, that's for sure. And you got to be an expert at what you're doing. And I think you have to care more about the people than the transaction. A lot of people would probably look at my numbers and go, I bet if somebody called you with an $80,000 purchase, you'd laugh at them and hang up, right? I wouldn't pass up a single loan for anybody. I don't care who they are or what they deserve to buy a house, regardless of whether it's $1 million house or a $100,000 house.
Yeah.
They deserve to be served with dignity and respect. And so I think that's a big part of it, is just your heart. Why are you in this business? If you're in it to make money, I mean, that's great. There's money to be made. But if you're in it to serve others, that's going to come back around, because people remember that. They remember when you went above and beyond to take care of them. They remember the wise counsel you gave them on, hey, here's how you clean up your credit. Here's how you do this. Here's how you can set your life up for success. Here's what 5 years from now looks like.
Yeah.
And they remember that, and they go, hey, I got a friend and I'm sending them to you. Cool. And then my phone rings.
So Chris just dropped a comment. Hey, would love to connect. Been here at LD for 3 months, being a veteran myself, get insight. So Chris, yeah, reach out, man. Patton's an open book. He'd love to connect with you. And
100%.
I love that about you, man. So I want to get tactical for the second or the last third of this conversation, Patton. And it goes back to this kind of Facebook group concept.
Yeah.
So I'll tee it up with this for everyone out there hanging with us. Facebook groups are massively powerful. They're a place of human connection. They show up in your feed prevalently. So they're a place where you can really get noticed and make a contribution and share. And so I would encourage anybody out there to just start looking for real estate investment groups in your city by city. I would tell you to look for Facebook groups that are just about your city, not necessarily real estate investment, but maybe just, Orange County or your Newport Beach, wherever your city is. And then also look for interest groups. Just like Patton said, interest groups. I don't care if it's superhero, cosplay, Dungeons and Dragons, basketball, rock collecting, or, West Point grads, or just maybe even graduates of your own university or high school. Like, look for those interest groups where there's human connection happening, join them. And so my question, Patton, is you find yourself in this group. What does your engagement strategy look like? First of all, how many people are in this group? Let's frame it so people can understand.
4,500.
Okay. So it's
not crazy.
Not crazy, but 4,500, and that's still a lot of opportunity coming your way from 4,500.
That's right.
And by the way, Patton's getting business from past customers and realtors and other things too, guys. So it's not just
it's not just
that, but let's talk about engagement in the group, best practices. How often are you commenting? Are you posting? Share how you take it on.
So the way this group kind of is people will jump in, people that have never been a part of it, never posted, never searched, and they'll go, hey, I'm looking for a realtor. I got an issue in San Antonio, or I need to talk to somebody that knows something about real estate here or wherever. And, I'll just be in there tagging the people that I know that are West Point grads that are working in different parts of real estate, whether it's, we got guys that are, CPAs, and we've got realtors, and we've got commercial developers, and, all this stuff. And so, so I just try to be somebody that's going to point the right people to the right people and help them connect.
Yeah.
And just be a part of that. And so I think whatever group it is, if you're showing up and you're part of it and you're consistently part of it, then people, they see your name and they go, oh, you're a top fan or whatever, right? The little thing that comes up there. And now they recognize you and they start, they see your name all the time. And then if you let them know what you're doing and I don't post a bunch of videos. I should probably be more. We already talked about that. I get it, Alec.
Well, no, this is perfect, because I want people to understand, like, how often are you posting something about what you do in that group, like directly to the group?
Rarely.
Yeah. So I love this, because this is a good comment, because I want people to have this understanding of etiquette in social media. There's a time and place for that, but like what Patton's doing is he's not putting a video out of all the great things he does and his Yelp reviews into this Facebook group every day.
Never.
Instead, are you commenting on people's stuff?
When people are in there, I'm commenting on stuff. I'm liking their posts. I'm just being active in the group. Yes. And so
I have direct message people from there. They ask a question, you send them a direct message, or do you answer to their comment?
I just answer in a comment.
Yeah.
I very rarely, and I say, if you want me, here's my phone number. If you need to talk more, call me. And I'll drop my phone number in there, and sometimes they call, sometimes they don't.
How long do you think it took to get kind of a reputation in there?
It didn't take real long, because there was one of the first people I interacted with was a guy that was literally in some sort of train wreck of a situation. I don't remember exactly what the details were. He was buying a place in New York, and his broker had completely screwed him over, and he had a closing in like 10 days. And he was like, help, I need help. And I'm like, dude, I'll help you. And I had everybody teed up, from underwriting to everybody to close, appraisal was done and all that stuff. So we got it closed in 10 days. He closed on time. He was super happy. And he put a post in there like, hey, this was awesome. This is amazing. He saved my life. He saved me a ton of money. He said, everybody should call this guy. And then COVID happened a month later, and the rest is history.
It's wild, dude.
But I'll tell you this though, Alec, is I think the other thing you mentioned it right at the very beginning, that our business is so transactional.
Yeah.
And I think people mess that up. And we all think we ask for referrals enough. And I'll be the first to admit that I probably don't do it enough. I probably don't farm and mine my past customer list as well as I should. But I do a very good job throughout a transaction of going, hey, do you know anybody? Hey, you're PCSing from Fort Bragg to Fort Hood. Do you know anybody else that's PCSing? Or you're going from this Army class.
Yes.
Hey, dude, you're in a class of 50 people right now that you're all majors, and now you're going to PCS all over the Army. Like, are there anybody else there that's going to buy a house? Because I think there's 50 of them.
It's so true, dude.
Spread my name around. Give my name to everybody. Tell them to call me. I'll take care of them. I don't care if they're West Point grad or not. They can even be Navy people.
Even Navy. You'll even lower your standards to just do a loan for somebody in the Navy, you know?
That's right. Yeah.
You're such a giver, man. So I want to end with just a couple of conversations, and some of this is kind of just coming back to things you said, but I really want you to share it again. I really want people to hear it. Okay. You mentioned that empathy for others and caring for others is more important to your as a key to your success than trying to make money and et cetera, et cetera. I also heard consistency, hard work, best habits that serve you. Working full days, as I've always ranted forever, that mortgage loan officers don't work a full 8-hour day.
Yeah.
So, and then you mentioned being a true pro, having the knowledge to actually be competent in the field. Would you add anything to those three things? You know what,
the working the whole day thing, let me comment on that. Is
sure.
I've been around this business 8 years now, and I see it a lot. And how many times does your processor send you a Teams message and it sits there for 4 hours before it gets answered? Or maybe it doesn't get answered till the next day. Like, hey, I got a question about the Smith loan, or the Hansen loan is,
yeah.
What's the deal on this? And you don't get back to them for a day. My email is up. If somebody sends me an email, yesterday I had a realtor email me, and I was super busy and I hadn't answered the email back. And about an hour later, she emailed me and she goes, hey, what's going on? Is something wrong? Like, you haven't answered the email yet. You're always fast. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Here's your answer. Right. But so I have my email, my Team's up all the time, 24/7. And if somebody on my team is asking a question, they get an answer immediately. And I think I owe that to them to help them do their job more efficiently. And
I love that, like this sense of natural urgency, like this person deserve, and what's the ethos underneath that? Like, why do you feel the need to respond so quickly and to be so accessible?
I mean, I think it goes back to your desire to care for the client and to serve them in the best possible way. I mean, they need to have a great experience with us, or they're never going to refer us. And anything I can do to not be somebody that is holding that back. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's.
I dig it, dude. I dig it. Steve said, stay in your lane and hang where your people hang. That's right. Really good, dude. That's a good synopsis, Steve, of just kind of what we've all been talking about.
Yeah.
Because this is where I've been a big proponent of just, you got to go where the people are. And clearly in Patton's case, they're in this Facebook group. So you got to go hang with them. You have any other final remarks for loan officers that want to achieve 100 million?
I think, gosh, we've covered most of it. Show up, be consistent, become a trusted voice for the people that you talk to. You got to treat everybody with dignity and respect, 100% of them all the time. Sometimes my wife she laughs at me. I hang up off the phone, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how kind you were to that person." And I go, "Well, like they're a customer." Yeah, but they were, it's on speakerphone or something.
Yeah, they're
She's
yelling at you or whatever. Yeah.
in the car, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, they were so evil, or they were being so mean to," so you have somebody that gets angry at you for some reason, and you're like, you got to be kind and understanding, and I think that's a big part of it, right? Treat people better than they treat you, and you're going to be okay.
So guys, as we close here, I want to share my own thoughts on Patton, just so you can hear it from a third party person about, what this guy is about. Because I hope that it's an encouragement for you as you look at your own business and what you're capable of doing. This is a guy who clearly loves humanity, cares for other people. That deep ethos inside him is rooted in how he runs his business. You can see it in how he talks to people, how he cares for people. But you can tell this guy, he jokes that he's a number crunching guy, but you can tell this guy has mastered his craft. He knows exactly what he's doing. He found a lane that he loves that connects deep within his purpose and his history. And then all of a sudden you got a guy who also isn't afraid to embrace new technologies, Facebook, and people crap on Facebook all day long. They're like, TikTok, Instagram's the way to go. And I'm like, well, where are the people? Where are the people you want to influence? And all of a sudden you find out, hey, they're in this community group. They're in this Facebook group. They're West Point grads. How can I be involved? He's showing up every day. He's commenting and engaging. He's part of the community. And then his reputation, both locally and nationally, digitally, has just started to spread. And now I know there's realtors in multiple states that love you from this whole thing. You brought on and expanded your team to serve more people and to go and fight the narrative about the VA loan group with David and their groups going out and saying, hey, let me train and teach you about how this great product is here to serve great Americans. And all of a sudden you look at a tough year, a down year, and you look at a guy like you, Patton, who's just saying, I'm just here to serve people. And then the success speaks for itself. So dude, you're an inspiration. You're somebody who you should be very proud of what you've accomplished and what you're going to continue to accomplish. And for everybody else out there that's listening to this guy today, just you're capable of the same thing. That if you are going to work hard and commit and have that real empathy, you can do the same thing. So Patton, thanks for hanging me today, dude, and just wrap it.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, I knew I'd get you at the end. I knew you'd come back in.
Yeah. So there's one thing, like the mindset of, can you get there? Can you do this? It's about, a lot of it's about who you hang with.
Oh, I like that.
Who you spend time with, and who you're watching, and who you're trying to emulate, and who you're trying to, who you're challenging yourself to compete with.
Yep.
Because that's another thing we didn't say is I'm competitive as all get out.
Yes.
And I like to win. And you put a chart up there, and like Barrett drives me nuts every month because he's like triple what what we're doing. I'm like, man, I gotta figure out how to get there. But so competition is one thing, but the other part is, 3-4 years ago when I did 30 million, I was like, man, woohoo.
Yeah.
That's a good year, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of if you're doing 30 million a year. And I had somebody tell me early in 2020, like, man, I think you could do 100 million. And I was like, 100 what? Like 100, how am I going to get there? Like, how is that ever going to, how can I do that much work? And when all of a sudden it starts happening and you're like, wow, this is doable. And now I feel like I can do that all the time. Yeah. I can crank that out without worrying too much. I mean, it's just,
wasn't one of your bigger months over $30 million in 1 month?
I think I did, my biggest was 28.
Yeah.
Million.
So what you used to do in a year, you did in a month, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. But January of 2020 was my biggest month ever. And I did 5.3 or something. And I was stoked. Did 5.3 in a month. Like, that was big, 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 big. And now if I did 5.3, I'd be like, my business is falling apart. So anyway.
Well, thank you, Pat, for hanging today, bro. I love the gems, love the community you're building, and thanks for the inspiration today, my man.
Thanks, Alec. I appreciate you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on this one. We'll see you in the future and see you on the internet. Have a wonderful day.